Hello learners and welcome to today's episode of Foreign Trade. This episode will tell you about the various affiliates of World Bank, the concept of regional economic integration and some of the major trade blocs. I am Dr. Sumbul Zaman, PhD in Human Resource Management from the Center for Management Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi, and I am into teaching. We have already covered the different aspects of World Bank in the earlier episode, so I begin my lecture with the various activities of World Bank. The World Bank has a strong research program that focuses on maintaining a sustainable growth, environmental protection, developing the private sector and reducing and decentralizing the government activities. The World Bank also has collaborated with the International Monetary Fund for the implementation of structural adjustment programs in the developing countries. It has been assisting the developing countries in implementing those projects that benefit the environment globally. And to do this, it has already collaborated with the United Nations Development Program and the United Nations Environment Program. Also, the World Bank has established the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes in 1996. Now, let us come to the different affiliates of World Bank, and they are the International Development Association, the International Finance Corporation Multilateral Investment Guarantee. Let us study the International Development Association, or the IDA, that is operated by the staff of the World Bank with the exceptions of a few separate sections. The President and the senior officials of the World Bank operate it. Though the IDA has been helping the poor countries, it has not been able to render development assistance to the least developing countries. Some of the objectives of International Development Association are to assist the world's poorest country by focusing on poverty alleviation, development of health, nutrition and education, to provide concessional financial assistance and macroeconomic management services to the poor countries, and to raise the standards of living of the poor countries. As far as the membership of the International Development Association is concerned, it is open to all the members of the World Bank, and the members are divided into two parts. Part 1 includes the developed countries including Iceland, Japan, Russian Federation, Kuwait and UAE, and Part 2 includes all the developing countries. Now, the membership ends once the country is no longer a member of the World Bank. If we talk about the financial resources of IDA, then they come from the initial subscription of the members, replenishment from its more industrialized members, and transfers from net earnings of the World Bank, special funds contribution, accumulated surpluses. Some of the credits provided by the IDA. The IDA loans, known as the credits, are given for such projects for which no assistance is provided by the World Bank. The special committee, before approving the credit, considers the poverty criterion, performance criterion and project criterion. The IDA sanctions credit in the form of soft loans to lesser developed countries for agriculture, education, health, nutrition, water supply, etc. Now, these loans are repayable over a period of 35 to 40 years. Now, let us talk of another affiliate of World Bank, that is the International Finance Corporation, or the IFC. The International Finance Corporation, or the IFC, was established in 1956 to promote productive private investment in the developing countries. It has its own staff, but it is dependent on the World Bank for the administrative services. The World Bank President is the ex officio chairman of the board of directors of the IFC. It has 8 departments, out of which 4 are related to the investment function on geographical basis, and the rest 4 to the capital markets, financial management, legal matters and engineering. Though IFC has played an important role in promoting productive private investment in the developing countries, but it has very little role in the lesser developed countries. As far as the membership of International Finance Corporation is concerned, a country has to be a member of the World Bank to join IFC. Now, some of the objectives of international finance corporations are to further economic development by encouraging and assisting in the financing of private enterprises for their growth, improvement and expansion. To bring together the investment opportunity, domestic and foreign private capital, as well as experienced management. As far as the financial resources of the IFC is concerned, it can borrow from the World Bank 4 times its subscribed capital and surpluses. The authorized capital of IFC is $1,300 million, and also the IFC provides assistance to the private enterprises through direct investments by investing in partnership with the private investors either from the capital importing country or the country in which the enterprise is located. The foreign and the local capital which is raised through equity or loan investments. The technical assistance through financial studies and analysis. The capital market development by studying the problems and the needs of the financial markets and then providing legal, financial and institutional framework and helping the small scale industries through preparing project reports and financial assistance. Now, let us come to the third affiliate of the World Bank, that is the Multinational Investment Guarantee Agency or the MIGA. The Multinational Investment Guarantee Agency or the MIGA was established in 1988. It has been created as a supplement to the World Bank and the IFC in those places where they have not been able to reach. MIGA has an authorized capital of $1.08 billion. Now, let us come to the objectives of Multinational Investment Guarantee Agency or MIGA. They are to encourage the flow of foreign direct investments into the developing member countries, to provide promotional and advisory services to the governments of the developing countries, to enable them to increase the attractiveness of their investment climate and to establish the credibility of their investors and a higher credit rating for them among the global banking and financial markets of the firms. The guarantee program included in MIGA protects the investors against any danger. Now, this may be related to the currency transfer, expropriation, war, civil disturbance and the breach of contracts by the governments. Now, let us come to the working of MIGA. In order to become a full-fledged member of MIGA, a country has to ratify the convention and pay its subscription capital. The projects have to be registered with MIGA before the investments are made. MIGA can ensure 90% of the investment amount subject to a limit of $50 million per project. The equity loans made or guaranteed by equity shareholders are among the eligible investments of MIGA, and the projects insured by MIGA have to support the environmental and development objectives of the World Bank. It also provides promotional and advisory services to the developing countries. It does this with the help of the executive development programs, foreign investment policies, roundtable conference and special advisory assistance to the governments of developing member countries. MIGA has signed 226 contracts of guarantee for investments in 52 developing countries, and it has also launched IPA Net, which is a global communication network that helps in the exchange of information among the members of the international investment communities. We are over with the topic of World Bank. Now, let us come to another topic, that is the regional economic integration. Regional economic integrations are agreements among the countries in a geographic region to reduce or to remove the tariff and the non-tariff barriers. It aims to facilitate a free flow of goods, services and factors of production among each other. If we talk of a trade bloc, then the other name of regional economic integration is a trade bloc. It is a group of countries which are geographically closer to each other, having similar trading policies. These countries allow a free flow of goods through mutual cooperation, and they have liberal rules for the member countries and different rules for the non-members. They are a type of intergovernmental agreement where regional barriers to trade, that is the tariffs and the non-tariff barriers, are either reduced or almost eliminated among the participating states. Most of the formations of the trade blocs were seen in the years 1960s and 1970s, and more than 50% of the world commerce was conducted within the regional trade blocs by 1997. Now, let us come to the objectives of the trade blocs. A few major objectives of the trade bloc are reducing the trade barriers among the member countries and imposing barriers on the non-members, promoting a free transfer of capital, labor and other resources, and creating a common currency, generating competition, promoting the welfare of consumers and collective bargaining. The advantages of trade blocs are that they lead to economic integration and expansion of markets. Trade blocs also facilitate an increase in the foreign direct investments. It benefits the economies of all the participating nations, and it leads to product and market development and consequently benefits the consumers. It leads to economies of scale as the average cost of production decreases as a result of mass production. Trade blocs result in greater competition, leading to a greater efficiency. It eliminates those tariffs that lower the cost of imports, leading to competitive advantage in the production of the firms. It makes the markets more efficient as a result of the increased consumption. A trade bloc also has certain disadvantages, and some of them are that they tend to be biased in favor of their participating countries, and this also leads to a higher tariffs and import restrictions. The regional trade bloc countries bring about regionalism more than global integration, and there is a loss of sovereignty, especially when the trade gets coupled with a political union. Also, the countries become increasingly dependent on each other as these trade blocs increase trade among the participating countries. Now, let us make ourselves aware of the levels of economic integration. They are free trade area, common market, custom union, economic union and political union. Let us go into the details. The free trade area. As the word indicates, it is that area in which all the barriers, that is the discriminatory tariffs, quotas, subsidies or the administrative impediments are removed. Now, this is done to facilitate a free trading of goods and services. A few examples of free trade areas are NAFTA, SAARC and EFTA. Custom unions, which is one step further to full economic and political integration. They have a common external trade policy that requires a significant administrative machinery. An example of custom union is the Central American Common Market or the CACM. Common market, in which there are no barriers to trade among the member countries, and they have a common external trade policy. This allows a free flow of factors of production, and it demands cooperation on the fiscal, monetary and employment policy. An example of the common market is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries or the OPEC. Economic union that requires a common currency, harmonization of members' taxes and significant degree of harmony and cooperation on fiscal, monetary and employment policy. Most significantly, it requires a common bureaucracy, and an example of economic union is the European Union. Political union, it is a central political apparatus that coordinates the economic, social and foreign policy of the member states. Now, let us throw some light on the major trade blocs such as the regional economic integration in Europe, regional economic integration in America and regional economic integration elsewhere. The regional economic integration in Europe, that is the European Union or the EU. Now, the European Union was established in 1957 when the Treaty of Rome was signed. It is the world's largest trading bloc and a global superpower comprising of 27 states. It comprises of such countries as France, Germany, Belgium, Italy, Great Britain, Ireland, Denmark, Greece, Spain, Portugal, Austria, Finland, Sweden, Malta, Cyprus, Bulgaria, Romania, etc. A few objectives of European Union are to eliminate the trade barriers by setting up a common market for all the goods and services, to promote free trade among the member countries and to facilitate a balanced and continuous expansion among the member states. The European Union comprises of 4 main institutions. They are the European Commission, European Council, European Parliament and the Court of Justice. Let us first study the European Commission. It is responsible for proposing and implementing the European Union legislation and monitoring the compliance with its laws by the member states. It is headquartered in Brussels, Belgium, and it is run by commissioners who are 27 in number. They are one from each member state and work for a 5-year renewable term. The role of European Commission in the competition policy has become important in the recent years. Now, let us come to another part of European Union, that is the European Council. This represents the interest of the member states and it is composed of one representative from the government of each member state, and it varies depending on the topic being discussed. Now, these topics may be such as agriculture, transport, etc. The European Parliament, which is directly elected by the populations of the member state, it is a consultative body that meets at Strasbourg, France. It debates the legislation proposed by the Commission and forwarded to it by the Council. The power of European Parliament increased after the Treaty of Lisbon was signed. The Court of Justice, it is comprised of one judge from each country and the judges act as independent officials rather than representatives of the national interests. We also need to know the Single European Act. The European Act had fallen short of its objectives, and as a result of this, the Single European Act became a law in European Commission in 1987, and the basic objectives of this act are to remove the frontier controls among the European Commission countries, apply the principle of mutual recognition to product standards, allowing low-cost suppliers to national communities, lift barriers to competition in banking and insurance, and to bring down the cost of financial services, and to remove the restrictions on foreign exchange transactions. Now, the Act had a significant impact on the European Union economy, leading to a faster economic growth. However, the implementation of a fully functional single market was uneven. We also need to know what a euro is. The members of European Council signed the Maastricht Treaty 1992 that advocated for the acceptance of a common currency. Now, out of the 27 member states, euro is used by 17 member states who are members of the Eurozone. The Executive Board of Bank consists of President, Vice President and 4 other members. It carries out the policies by issuing instructions to the national central banks. The benefits of euro. The significance of euro is that a common currency leads to more saving due to lower foreign exchange and hedging costs. The adoption of a common currency makes it easier to compare the prices across Europe. It has increased competition, leading to long-term gains. It has affected the efficiency of European companies positively, and it has given a boost to the development of highly liquid pan-European capital market. A few drawbacks of euro are that the national authority has lost control over their monetary policy. European Union is not an optimal currency area, as many European economies in the Eurozone are dissimilar to each other in terms of tax regimes, wage rates, business cycles, etc. Now, let us come to another regional economic integration in America. The most significant attempts of regional economic integration in Americas are the North American Free Trade Agreement or the NAFTA, Andean Community, Mercosur, Central American Common Market, CAFTA and Caricom. We will talk of North American Free Trade Agreement or NAFTA first. The governments of United States and Canada entered into a free trade agreement in 1988 to eliminate the bilateral trade between Canada and United States. Later, this was followed by talks among the United States, Canada and Mexico that consequently led to the establishment of North American Free Trade Agreement or NAFTA. It became a law in 1994. The contents of NAFTA includes the following: to abolish tariff on 99% of the goods traded among Mexico, Canada and United States, to remove most barriers on the cross-border flow of services, to protect the intellectual property rights, to apply national environment standards that have a scientific basis, to establish commissions that can impose fines and remove trade privileges when the environment standards or the legislations are ignored. These standards may be related to health and safety, minimum wages or child labor. To adopt a dispute settlement mechanism. Benefits of NAFTA. The free trade area is viewed as an opportunity to create enlarged and efficient productive base for the entire region. The US and the Canadian firms have taken the advantage of low labor costs after moving their production to Mexico, and this can help them better compete with their Asian and European rivals. The US and the Canadian consumers enjoy low priced goods manufactured in Mexico. However, some of the drawbacks of NAFTA are that the falling trade barriers can expose the Mexican firms to highly efficient US and Canadian competitors. The environmentalists have voiced against NAFTA as a result of the smog over the Mexico City and increasing chemical waste and sewage along El Paso, Texas to the Gulf of Mexico. It is also said that the US firms would not contribute to Mexico's economic growth, but use it as a low-cost assembly site. Now, let us move on to another regional economic integration, that is in America. It includes the Andean Community, Mercosur, Central American Common Market, Central American Free Trade Agreement and the Caribbean Community. Let us talk about the Andean Community first. The Andean Community was created as a result of the Andean Pact in 1969. It included Bolivia, Ecuador, Chile, Colombia and Peru. It aimed at an internal tariff reduction program, common external tariff, transportation facility and common industrial policy and concessions for smallest members such as Bolivia and Ecuador. The Andean Community operates as a customs union. Mercosur. It was a free trade pact between Brazil and Argentina in 1988. With the later additions of Paraguay, Uruguay and Venezuela, the reductions in the tariffs and the quotas led to an increase in trade. The aim of Mercosur was to establish a completely free trade area by the end of 1994. It contributed positively to the economic growth rate of its member countries. However, in 1998, the member states slipped into recession, followed by a financial crisis in Brazil in 1999. This was again followed by the economic stress in Argentina in 2001. At the end of this time, it was suggested to temporarily suspend customs union. There has been a little progress in Mercosur with time. Central American Common Market or the CACM. It was established in the 1960s and included Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua and Costa Rica. However, this collapsed in 1969 after a riot broke out in a soccer match between Honduras and Salvador. Central American Free Trade Agreement or CAFTA. Later, the countries of CACM and United States culminated to establish a free trade zone in 2004. The main aim was to lower the trade barriers between the United States and these countries for goods and services. The Caribbean Community or the Caricom. It was established in 1973 between English-speaking Caribbean countries. However, it failed to progress towards an economic integration. Later, Caricom expanded to 15 members by 2005. The Caricom members established Caribbean Single Market Economy or the CSME. The aim was to lower the trade barriers and harmonize the macroeconomic and monetary policy between the member states. Now, let us come to the regional economic integration in Africa. There are 9 trade blocs in the African continents. The number of trade blocs has been growing, but the progress towards the establishment of meaningful trade blocs has been very slow. The most recent attempt towards a free trade movement took place in 2001 when Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania of East African Community relaunched their bloc 24 years after they had collapsed. They intended to establish customs union, a regional court, legislative assembly and a political federation. Later, East African Community established a common market in 2010. Some of the other regional economic integrations are Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN. It was formed in 1967 and includes such countries as Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Singapore and Thailand. Its headquarters is in Jakarta, Indonesia, and its main objective is to foster free trade and cooperation among the member countries. It signed a free trade agreement with China that removed tariff on 90% of the traded goods. The Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation or the APEC. The Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation or the APEC was founded in 1990 and it has 21 member states including United States, Japan and China. The objective of APEC is to increase the multilateral cooperation for the economic rise of the Pacific nations and growing interdependence within the region. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries or OPEC. OPEC is a permanent intergovernmental organization created in 1960 at Baghdad Conference. It comprises of Iraq, Kuwait, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela and was later joined by 8 more countries. Its headquarters is in Vienna, Austria, and the main objective of OPEC is to unify and coordinate petroleum policies among the member countries to secure a fair and equitable price for petroleum producers as well as to ensure a regular supply of petroleum to the petroleum consuming nations. South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation or SAARC. It was established in 1985 with Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Pakistan, Nepal as member countries. Its headquarters is in Kathmandu, Nepal. Its objective is to promote the welfare of people of South Asia as well as to accelerate their economic and cultural growth. It aims to enhance the mutual trust, understanding and strengthen self-reliance among the countries of South Asia. The Council of Ministers have signed the SAARC Preferential in 1993 to eliminate trade barriers and liberalize trade among the member countries. So, that was all for today. With the hope that you have understood the different topics taught today, we end the episode here. Today, we learned the concept of World Bank and its affiliates, the regional economic integration and the major trade blocs like the regional economic integrations in Europe or EU, regional economic integration in America, regional economic integration in Africa and the regional economic integrations elsewhere such as ASEAN and APEC. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.